Yeah, no worries.
She was able to get the person in. I could not get them in. You do know it's upside down?
What? Mine's upside down?
It's upside down.
Oh, Devin needs one too.
Where are they?
Yours is upside down.
Yours is still upside down. No, this is probably ours. Oh, Matt.
I will be better with this.
It's an interesting thing.
Folks, we're just letting people wander in. There was still a few people in the restaurant, so we're just giving everyone a chance to get in, and then we'll get the meeting started.
For those that weren't in this room earlier, if you have a question, raise your hand and someone's going to bring you a mic so that we make sure the folks that are seeing the stream hear your questions, because otherwise nobody knows what we're answering. So again, if you have a question during this process, raise your hand. Someone will zoom out with a mic and you can ask away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's time to get this party started, don't you? I hope some of you had an opportunity to enjoy some of our pre-conference sessions this morning. We had 3 wonderful sessions, so thank you for those of you who arrived early and participated in that with us. Welcome to the 2021 APHNYS Annual Conference, and we have about 75 people here with us in person and close to another 40 with us online today. So wave to everyone on the camera with us. Hello, everyone. So the way this is going to work is the people who are joining us virtually, we are monitoring your questions. So if you have questions during the meeting, please type them into the chat and we have someone who is monitoring those and we'll make sure that we get those answered and addressed during our meeting today. So thank you. We are well, first of all, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Christine Radarski. I am your current APHNYS president. This is my 2nd year in office and I'm up for re-election as much as I tried to get out of it my fellow board members told me I had to stay. So we all have bribed each other to keep many of us on the board for now. So we hope to be with you for another term. We are so delighted to have you here with us. You know, it's been a hard 18 months and we missed seeing you in person last year. So we're delighted that so many people have been able to join us. And we're very glad that we've been able to offer the opportunity for those of you at home to join us virtually as well. So we're grateful that we could all be here together during this difficult time. We are asking, if you are not vaccinated, please do wear a mask throughout the conference. And if you are vaccinated, we still encourage you to do so if you're willing to. As you can see, when those of us are talking, presenters, we're taking our masks off. Obviously, we'll be unmasked during dinner, but in concern for everyone's safety, we do appreciate masking. I want to start today by thanking our presenting sponsor, the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. They are available to talk about your historic marker and other historic needs in our exhibit hall today. They've been a longtime supporter of APHNYS, and we are very, very grateful for their continued support. We also want to thank our supporting sponsors as well, the City of Oswego and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And we also invite you to visit with all of our exhibitors and vendors in the exchange gathering place. We've set aside a space for you to rest and relax and get refreshments throughout the conference. That is at the river side of the building in the what we've been calling the bar area. It's technically the riverfront room, hospitality room. But please take advantage of that. Check out our vendors and enjoy some beverages and a place to relax. We are delighted to be here in Oswego at the convergence of the Oswego River and Lake Ontario, where our conference theme focuses on watershed moments. We had intended to be here last year, and we've been very grateful that our partners and sponsors here at the hotel and in the community have allowed us to come here this year instead. I want to take some time to thank and recognize the people who have made today's event possible for you. First off, I want to thank our program committee, committee chair, Saratoga County historian Lauren Roberts. Wave. Perfect timing, Lauren. So Lauren has led the team that has selected the programs and done a lot of the work to make this happen today. The other members of that team are Mark Slosik. Mark's at the front of the room chit-chatting. Kelly Farquhar. Did I pronounce that right? But she is virtual, yes. So Kelly is not with us in the room today, but I think she's joining us on camera. So Kelly, thank you. Michelle Finn, who is monitoring our chat for us, for those who are at home, and John Shearer. And for those of you who have noticed or not yet, you will see the board members wearing mustache masks. This is in honor of John. John has been an active member, board member, has held numerous positions with APHNYS for the past about 20 years, right, John? And he is retiring from the board at the end of this year. So we thought it would be appropriate to honor John with these mustache masks, because John has always been known for his mustache, which I'm sure he'll show off to us at some point behind the mask. So. John, thank you for your service. Next, I want to thank our local arrangements committee. These are the people who have arranged for our keynote speaker, for our field experiences that we'll enjoy tomorrow, and they are here helping to ensure that everything runs smoothly here at the conference center. And our leader of that committee is Mark Slosik. Constance Barone could not be with us here today. I believe she may also be joining us virtually. George Damas, is George in the room? There's George. Thomas LeClaire, I see Tom back there. And Justin White, our Oswego County historian. Yeah. And so now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to Mark Slosik, our chair of the Local Arrangements Committee. And Mark has been working like crazy for 2 years instead of 1 year in this position preparing. So Mark, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Mayor Barlow to say a few welcoming comments. Mayor Barlow became mayor in 2016, and at the time he became mayor, he was the youngest mayor in the state of New York. He's brought a new energy and a new vision to Oswego. We were awarded a $10 million downtown revitalization initiative, which has gone a long way to improve the city. If you look around town, there's a lot going on. He's also successfully been able to get state and federal grants that have renewed the waterfront, the parks, the marina, a lot of great things going on in Oswego at this time. And one of the things that I want to say is that he's been very tolerant of his sometimes aggravating and annoying city historian. So I really appreciate the fact that he puts up with me from time to time, but I'd like to, he also has a real interest in preserving and renovating our many historic buildings. He's really invested in that, and he sees the need to do that and how it benefits the city. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Barlow.
Well, thank you, Mark. I'm in the middle, we're in the middle of our budget season here, so he's only saying nice things about me to increase his allocation in the budget, I think. But Mark, thank you for all the good work you do for the Oswego community and preserving our history, but also for the association and setting up this conference. We're so proud and honored to be able to host the association these next few days. So I'd like to welcome you to Oswego. It's actually fitting that we're playing host this week because we actually have some important historical anniversaries going on in the community right now. We just celebrated the 150th anniversary of Oswego City Hall, and we did that in conjunction with a $3 million restoration project. City Hall, built in 1870, didn't see much investment until this last project. There was a project done in the 1980s, but we just put about $3 million into the building, and it looks great. So if you're out and about on a break or having lunch, feel free to take a look at City Hall. You can't miss it on the west side of downtown. And if you'd like to come in, feel free to stop in. I'll try to give you the abbreviated version of a tour if I'm available. We also are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Oswego County Historical Society. Was it 100 or 125? 125th anniversary of the Oswego County Historical Society. So we celebrated that back in May or June at their annual meeting. Then it's also the 225th anniversary of the British evacuation of Fort Ontario. So if you're out and about on a break, feel free to, I saw Paul Lear here who does a great job managing the site, but Fort Ontario has been involved in a lot of the conflicts in our nation's history. And then also right next door is the Safe Haven Museum. I'm sure you know this, but the city of Oswego was the only place in the United States of America that accepted Jewish refugees escaping the Holocaust during World War II. And they were housed right here on Fort Ontario, 970 or so individuals that were here as guests of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. So it's an important tidbit that we're very proud of here. At the same time, Mark alluded to some of this, but we have a lot of progress being made in downtown. We won a $10 million downtown revitalization grant in 2016. Fast forward 4 or 5 years now, that money's long gone. Let me assure you of that. But we have about 12 projects that are completed or near completion. So you see a lot of the construction going on in some of the new mixed-use buildings downtown. We also use some of that money to rehab some old buildings, including the oldest building in the city, the Cahill Building, built in 1828. So that saw about $1 million restoration that prevented it from actually falling down. So we're proud of that project as well. And then also a lot of development along the waterfront. We have about $15 million of investment going into our Brightbeck Park, Wrights Landing Marina, and the International Pier. So we're proud of the development there. And then, of course, trying to make Fort Ontario a landmark on a national landmark. We're going through that study process right now. The public comment period's open. We're very excited. We feel that that'll pay huge dividends, not only for the fort, but the entire Oswego community in Central New York, and then also the Marine Sanctuary project going through NOAA. We think that that'll be a real transformative, game-changing project for this community. So we're pushing forward. So in closing, a lot of stuff happening, as you can tell. 2 minutes opening remarks turns into a 5-minute update on everything happening in city government. But we're proud of what's going on, and we're thrilled to play host for the association. So welcome and enjoy your stay. I'll turn it over to Tim Stahl on behalf of Oswego County.
Thank you, Mayor Barlow. Yeah, again, I'm Tim Stahl. I'm a county legislator here, and unfortunately, the county administrator and the county legislative chair were not available to be here today, so you're stuck with me. Apologies in advance. But honestly, we are so thankful you could all be here today. What an exciting time to be in Oswego County, the city of Oswego. You just heard some amazing things going on. This National Marine Sanctuary application, we are incredibly excited about, and our county administrator, I know, has been working tirelessly towards that. So very, very encouraging things going on. Thank you for being here. What you do is very important, essential to all of us, and just really appreciate you coming to Oswego. So thank you so much, and turn it back over to Mark.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Christine. So thanks.
Thank you both very much for joining us today and for welcoming us to your community. I'm sure we're all going to have a great time. So thank you. Thank you very much. So it's been an annual tradition with APHNYS for many, many years now to have our state historian join us to give us a state of the state update every year, a state of the state of New York history. And it is always an honor to have the historian with us. And we are very pleased that we have a wonderful relationship with our current state historian, Devin Lander. And Devin is going to share with us today the state of New York State's history. So it's my honor to introduce Devin. In addition to collecting our annual reports, are you all starting to work on yours? We're getting close to the end of the year. And keeping us all in line in his role as state historian. Devin also serves as head of museum chartering for the State of Education Department. He is co-host with our own Lauren Roberts of the New York Minute in History podcast, and he is co-editor of the New York History Journal. And we also should congratulate Devin on being elected as a New York Academy of History Fellow last year. So, Devin, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Christine, and it's good to see everybody in person. I know last year when we were doing this, it was all virtual, so this is exciting. I'm happy to be here, as always, among the public historians, and I'm also happy to be in Oswego on a beautiful day. Matt, can you... Yeah, so this is the state of New York State history. So I'm just going to go over some highlights of the work that is being done at the Office of State History in the State Museum. As we know, go ahead. Last year, COVID changed everything, right, for all of us. And that was no different at the State Museum. We were forced to work remotely, along with our colleagues in the archives and library. The Office of Cultural Ed building was shut to employees and the public for several months. But I think in May is when I was allowed back in, and most of us were allowed back in over the summer, and we've been there fully working since at least June or July. So the good news is that the Office of Cultural Ed is back open. The library, archives, and museum have their original hours. We are open to the public. There are some COVID restrictions in place, but happily we are busy once again with the public in the building, and we continue to do our work going forward in as normal a way as possible. This is the first trip I've made in over a year. I used to do several conferences, but this is the first time I've been back. So this is exciting for me. The theme of today's conference and this week's conference is Watershed Moments. We are entering a watershed moment in public history, really. The entire field is entering a watershed moment, and that's the America 250 commemoration that's coming quickly down the pipeline. Losing a year to the pandemic was not helpful, but the good news is there's a lot of planning underway at the national level as well as the state and local level. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, just so everybody is aware and knows what's happening as far as the legislation is concerned in New York that creates a 250th commemoration committee. So the bill passed. We have a bill that passed both houses of the legislature unanimously in June. So there were no dissenting votes, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. We are awaiting the governor's signature. Something happened to the other governor, and now we have a new governor. So that's slowed things down. But again, this is a very popular piece of legislation. It passed both houses unanimously, bipartisan, all of that. So we expect the governor to sign the bill any day, every day. I'm hopeful that today's the day that it gets to her her signature. And I know she's dealing with a lot right now, and there's a lot of unfinished work that she has to do, but she really has the calendar year. So you know, hopefully any day. And the good news too is that the state Senate placed $50,000 in this year's budget to establish the commission. That's not a lot of money, but it will get the commission up and running, with the idea that future funding, which is being discussed right now. Okay. I just wanted to thank the sponsors, Senator Shelley Mayer on our left and Assemblymember Kerry Warner. They carried the bill in their respective houses. We're very supportive of it. They understand the value of history in their own districts as well as statewide. Kerry Warner represents the area around the Saratoga battlefield, so she is very aware of the importance of commemorating the revolution, as is Senator Mayer. Some key provisions, and I apologize for putting all this language up there, but I thought it was important for us to kind of go through what this bill does so everybody is on the same page. It really creates a commission through which the National Commission will work. There's a federally created commission that was created in 2016 by Congress. And what they're trying to do is have every state form a commission or create some other type of governmental entity through which they can work. So their plan is to distribute funding and programming through the state commissions. That's why it was so important that we all create a commission. So our commission has 13 members. The commissioner of the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, as well as the Commissioner of State Education Department, where I work. They are the co-chairs of the commission. The president and CEO of Empire State Development Authority. The idea behind that is that's the I Love New York program, and this will be a major heritage tourism initiative for the state. The New York State Historian is a member. And then 3 members appointed by the governor, 2 each by the temporary president of the Senate and Speaker of the Assembly, and 1 each for the minority leaders of each house. Another thing to really highlight in this legislation, which is available online, the entire bill, which is several pages long, but I just pulled out key provisions. But what it does is it names other organizations through which and with which the commission will work. And I just wanted to highlight that one of the organizations is APHNYS. So it's very important to the creators of this legislation that the local government historians have a seat at this table because you are the ones who are going to be doing much of this work and on behalf of your communities. Another interesting and important provision is naming of all the state recognized Native American nations as partners as well. And conversations are ongoing with various members of those communities, excuse me, about how they would like to become involved, if they want to become involved. We had a very productive meeting last week with several members. And we talked about obviously the complexity of the situation and the commemoration and how different communities look at this. But the one thing that I will say from that meeting is they all made note of how they were not part of previous commemorations and they were not asked officially by the state. So the fact that this is in this legislation is very important. Powers and duties, this is a long lot of language, but really the commission is set up to be a public benefit corporation on behalf of the state. And it can do the actions of such an organization, including handling state money, federal money, raising money, fundraising, as you can accept gifts. And then of course, the actual work will be the historical and economic cultural studies, education programming, and to assist communities with the work that you're doing that's related to the 250th. The strategic plan is another piece. It's really the first thing that the commission will have to do once the governor signs it into law, because it's due 12 months after such signature. And it's really an opportunity to set the agenda for the commission. And one thing I do want to also point out is as soon as the governor signs the legislation, the bill will go into effect, and it will be in effect until December 31st of 2033. So that's the entirety of the commemoration. This isn't just 1776. And so that's vitally important for us to think about as well. Funding, this is how the bill is broken down when it comes to distribution of funding. And this is a very important thing to note as well. So 45% of any of the funding that the commission will be granted either by the state, the federal government, fundraising, will go to local governments and heritage organizations for historic programming, preservation and natural area protection and management relating to New York State 250th. And other heritage projects like the Underground Railroad, women's suffrage, and civil rights sites, such as the commission shall identify through its strategic plan. Because the idea is the 250th of the revolution and the 250 years since then, and the ideals of the revolution. Oh, can you just go back? Sorry, Matt. The other half of the funding, 45%, 10% is for administration, but the other 45%, equally important, is directed to the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation for capital improvements for state historic sites. All of us know our state historic sites and how important they are to telling the story of New York's history from the Revolution and beyond. And unfortunately, many of these sites have had restrictions to their budget and have been unable to do some of the capital improvements that are needed to keep them flourishing and allow them to fully take part in the 250th. So I just wanted to note that as well. The idea behind the commission bill is to also help the state historic sites. All right, what should you do? One of the things we're going to talk about tomorrow is regional organizing that's taking place either at the county level or regional level among local government historians and others interested in the commemoration, including our historic site. I think it's vitally important, if you haven't talked about doing that, to think about what that would look like in your region and your community. One of the things I think that the commission will be most effective at doing is working with existing regional groups. And these models exist that are out there. Like I said, counties are working in this direction as we speak. We'll learn more about it tomorrow. But again, the state commission, just like the federal commission is working through the state commissions, the state commission will work through the regional groups. And of course, planning. Many of you are already doing this and have been doing it for years. Luckily, the state is trying to catch up. But you are best positioned to know how your community fits within the goals of the 250th Commission. You're also the person best positioned to know what types of programming your community will benefit from most, and you know your historical resources best. So you are that point person. You really should be that point person for this as we move forward. All right, that's the 250th, and I'll answer any questions about that as we get going forward. But I did want to talk about some of the other initiatives that have continued since we last met, including, you mentioned, Christine, the New York Minute in History. My co-host Lauren Roberts is here. We won 2 awards for podcasting, so that's exciting. And new episodes are coming out. The Pomeroy Foundation is our sole funder now. So each of the episodes focuses on a marker from the Pomeroy Foundation and then uses that marker to introduce a larger theme. So if you haven't listened to it, please do. We love feedback. If you have comments or questions about any of the episodes, please reach out. WAMCpodcast.org. WAMC is our NPR station that produces the show for us. Christine mentioned the reports as well. It's report season, basically. So you can find the online form for the reports or a PDF that you can download and print if you prefer to do it that way at the Office of State History website. Hopefully all of you are aware of this website and go to it frequently. This is where we put news and events and anything related to grants that has to do with history. 250th stuff is going up there for now. Eventually there'll be a 250th website. But right now, this is kind of the point site for all things history that come across our emails anyway. So if you have events, also send them to us. And Christine also mentioned the journal. The journal is published by Cornell University Press. I am one of the co-editors, along with Jennifer Lemack at the museum and Aaron Noble, as well as Rob Childs, who's at the University of Maryland. One of the interesting things, and we're going to talk more about publishing tomorrow, so I won't spend too much time on it. But since we've taken over as editors, we've really tried to take what was essentially 100% academic journal and make it into an academic public history journal. So we have features now that feature the work of local government historians, as well as museum professionals, teachers. We have the Teach New York feature. With the idea being that we would like the journal to speak to the entire field rather than just academics. There's still academic articles, still blind peer review. We still have an advisory board made up of eminent historians, but we also are looking at exhibits, films, movies for our review section, as well as highlighting community history projects and artifact-based projects. And I just wanted to end with this. Last year, if you remember, I talked a little bit about History Day, which I tend to do. And last year we were in a crisis, again, not only with the pandemic, but with the future of History Day. Would History Day have a future? Last year it was run completely virtually. I think actually the last 2 years it was completely virtual and was run by the National History Day program, but it had no home in New York. So I will say, happily, that yes, History Day does have a future. It's now going to be run out of the Cooperstown graduate program in Oneonta. It should be hosted there once we can go live, so probably in person, so next year. And I'm very excited that Gretchen Soren and her team at Cooperstown graduate program really stepped up and said, hey, we have to keep this program. This reaches out to the future of our field, but also the future of our sites, our visitors, getting people interested in history, getting students interested in history. So she really stepped up with her team there and agreed to take it over. And that's a really exciting thing as we see things, kind of disappear sometimes or go under. It's exciting to see that the field itself will reach out and work to continue these programs. We saw it with the journal. We're seeing it with History Day. They're not going away. And this is how you can contact me, the Office of State History website, my email. Always, if you have any questions, email, phone call, questions related to chartering or anything related to your reports or Any other questions related to history, please reach out. And I guess I'll take questions if there are any. Thank you. Sure.
Hi, my name's Linda Brown. I'm with from the town of Macedon, a historian. And my question for you is, what is the 250th anniversary called? I've got 3 names here, and I'm wondering which one.
For New
Is-
York?
No, United States semi-quincentennial,
That's the word.
a quarter millennial, or a sester.
It's a semi-quincentennial.
Okay,
That's
thank
what
you.
they're calling
Thank
it.
you. I mean, it's like for marketing and
Rolls off
everything
the
else.
tongue, right? Yeah.
I
But they're
think she
really,
was-
they're really calling themselves America 250 now, happily. So, so we would be New York 250.
I think she was just testing to see if you knew that word.
I do, but I try not to say it.
Michelle, do we have any questions coming in from the chat? Not yet. Okay. Anyone else in the room here? Let me get over here to Dick.
Thank you. This is Dick Williams, Village of Clinton. You mentioned earlier the goals of the commission. Are they printed someplace so we can see them?
No, they're actually being developed. One of the things that does exist are the goals for the America 250 Federal Commission. So again, the commission's not up and running yet, but my vision would be that they would take those kind of strategic goals and tailor them for New York. Obviously, the America 250 is in a unique position because they're trying to be the entire country's commission, right? And obviously there were 13 colonies and many of the states didn't exist. So it's a little different, but the real work will be done in the strategic plan. And that's when there'll be opportunity for comment and for suggestions related to what the New York Commission will be doing. But it's not there yet, unfortunately. We got to get signature on this.
Thank you.
Hello, is it on? Yes. Marilyn Hayden, historian from Village of Greenwood Lake. When you talked about the bill, how do we access that? Is that through your department or is?
Actually, it's you can find it online if you go to the New York State Assembly, and I'll give you the number now. I should have probably put that up there. I apologize, but it's Assembly Bill 4742B. If you go to New York State Assembly website, there's a legislative search function. You can put in the bill number and it'll come up, should come up in a PDF.
Hi, I'm Debbie Allen from the town of New Haven. Your podcast on Audrey Munson.
Oh, there you are.
I enjoyed that a lot, but I just wonder why nobody reached out to the local historians or Audrey's family when they were doing that.
We spoke with the county historian, and you know, there's a limited amount of people that we can interview per show, but we try to always, the way we're doing it now with the Pomeroy signs is we reach out to whomever put the sign forward.
That would be me.
Well, there we go. We didn't reach out to you then. Sorry.
Hi, Devin. Paul
Hey,
Leader,
how's
Fort
it going,
Ontario
Paul?
State Historic Site. Oh, we used a word called bicentennial for the 250th. I know it's kind of tough for these newer generations, you know, but
Yeah.
So I see the capital money for New York State Historic Sites. I wanted to point out that very often they're very Hudson Valley centric.
Mhm.
And out here in this neck of the woods at Fort Ontario, we're with the King. So I want to make sure that, you know, that we're not forgotten, that there are other sides of the story with our Native Americans.
Sure.
And also places like Herkimer Home State Historic Site where their staff has been removed. It's going to be very difficult for them
Yes.
to get something going.
Yeah, I will say, you know, and again, in a way, it's a good structure to have, you know, state parks as certainly a partner in this. And you know, the discussions that we've had have been, you know, how do you use this commemoration to really provide a shot in the arm for the state historic sites as well as the communities and everything else. So I will say that Daniel McKay has been very aware, I think, at least in the conversations I've had, and in the commissioner as well, seems very intent on you know, understanding the potential benefits that can be there. So there, you'll know more than I do about what they end up asking for, but I know it's a significant number.
Very good, as long as we're west of Schenectady. Yeah, don't forget us.
I won't forget. I grew up in Steuben County, so it's like I can't forget the Central West.
Are there other questions in the room? Michelle, anything coming in online? Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad we're all together again. Exciting.
And Devin, on behalf of APHNYS, I want to thank you, and we want to thank you for all of the work you're doing to include the government-appointed historians in the work of New York State. I think you're really helping to raise our profile and to help all of us get the credit that we deserve, and helping New York State to maintain that history. And this is particularly evident. I think we all probably know that the reason APHNYS was included in this legislation has to be Devin. I'm sure, you know, Devin's always advocating for us. So Devin, thank you for that. And personally, thank you for your interest in New York History Day. I've shared with some of you before, I participated in History Day in Ohio in the 6th and 7th grade way back when. And it truly is that experience that it was my first time dealing with primary source materials and sort of getting out into the community and learning about history. And I swear that's why I'm a historian today. So that's something that's always been near and dear to my heart. So Devin, thank you for your commitment to that as well. Before I call our annual meeting to order, I just want to make sure everybody has seen the conference materials. They were mailed out to you on Saturday and again early this morning. We also have print copies on the table up here. So if anybody needs to get copies, I'm going to give you just a minute to do that so that we can be sure you have all of the conference materials that you need. We will be voting on at least 3 motions today. So please take a few minutes to do that. And while those people in the room are picking up their packets, I also want to point out to the folks at home that all of the materials were also emailed to you, should have been twice as well. So please, if you haven't had a chance to look at those, they should be in your email. And they also are available on the APHNYS website on the conference page. So you can go there to look for them. We will be voting very soon. For those of you at home, there was a link included in those emails, and you should have also gotten a separate email with access to our online voting registration system. And so we need to get moving, because I think that, no, it doesn't. The instructions you had said we were closing voting at 2 o'clock, but that has been extended. So you do have time to vote. So don't worry that we're running a little bit behind. And while we're waiting, John, I think you need to stand up one more time and show us how to wear a mustache, because I see some of our board members over here who don't seem to know how to wear a mustache correctly. Hey, Lauren, yours is too while you're pointing at Mark. Look at John. No, your mustache should curl up. Oh, Mary, you look like you're frowning. We don't want our mustaches to frown, do we, John? Okay. All right, I do believe everyone has gotten back to their seats. So my clock says 1:51, so I would like to call the annual meeting of the membership of APHNYS to order at 1:51 p.m. Will Tatum is our secretary. Will, give us a little wave, please. Will be taking our minutes for today and helping us with a number of our tasks today. So the first thing that we need to do, and we do have on your agenda that we were expecting a remarks from our conference sponsor. Darren Pomeroy has decided that she'd rather meet with you in person. So please go see her at the Pomeroy table at some point during the conference. But again, we want to thank the Pomeroy Foundation for all of the support they've given us, not only for this conference, but for much of the work that we've been doing as APHNYS, and especially during the pandemic. So thank you to the Pomeroy Foundation. In old business, we need to approve the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting, which was last year's annual meeting that was held online. Those minutes were in your packet. Is there any discussion about the minutes? Okay, sorry, we must be having some technical issues. Okay. All right. Any conversation on the 2020 minutes? Any corrections, additions, changes? And I'm going to give it just a minute because it does appear we're having some technical difficulties, and I just want to make sure that our virtual members do have the opportunity to weigh in.
I just got a message saying that the chat was not getting through. But direct messages are getting through. So if you're having trouble sending your message, your questions through the chat to everyone, try direct messaging to Matt.
I think, okay.
And I'm seeing it that way. So sorry about that.
So direct messages to Matt Ertz on the Zoom. Or directing them into Matt's head. Okay. All right. So, and I'm just waiting one more few seconds here just to see if anything's coming in on the minutes. So if you're out there in our virtual world, if you have questions or comments on the minutes, get them in right away. Okay. All right. So I think with that, we will entertain a motion to approve the 2020 minutes. Would someone like to make a motion? All right, moved by Mark Slosik, a motion to approve the 2020 minutes. Is there a second? Second, Dick Williams. Okay. All in favor? And if you're voting online, that is one of the questions in your online poll as well. And we will make sure your votes get counted. Any opposed? Okay. Any abstentions? 2 abstentions, Jason Parkman and Jean Bavis. I do also want to point out that voting is open to paid historian level APHNYS members. So please do not vote if you are an affiliate member or if your dues are not paid. Linda. Linda Brown is abstaining. All right. Then the motion is passed, minutes approved. So thank you for that. Next on the agenda is my presidential address. So I have been very busy preparing for this conference, so my remarks aren't as polished as they might be, but we are going to move ahead. The past 18 months have been trying for all of us, but despite that, APHNYS remains strong. And that really is thanks to the hard work of your board of trustees and also to the support that each of you have provided. Sorry, I just lost my place. And the support that each of you have provided to us as your board and to each other. I know we've relied on each other quite a bit over the past 18 months, so thank you for that. As you will hear from Ray Lefevre a little later, our membership numbers are making a comeback after declining significantly in 2020 as a result of the pandemic. We are, nearing, not quite, but nearing the numbers from 2019. And as Zach Studenroth will show us, we remain in a fiscally strong position. So we really are, we have not suffered too much as an organization as a result of the pandemic. So we are very grateful for that. So again, thank you all for your continued support. For the past year, the board has been working on several of our priorities, things that we have laid out to you in the past. First, we have completed our conversion to an integrated website and an online membership and event management system. And I know many of you are familiar with this because you have taken the option, taken advantage of the option to renew your memberships online, to register for this very event online, and to use a credit card to pay. That was a new option that this system has made available, and it seems something that has been helpful to many of you because we do see a lot of you taking advantage of that. We really want to thank you for your patience during this process. This was a big change for us, and it's been a learning curve for your volunteer board to try to learn the whole system and make sure we're doing everything right. And we're still messing up a little bit here and there. We continue to discover and hopefully to correct glitches with the system. But overall, it really has streamlined our record keeping and our communications processes. So, bear with us a little bit longer. I think we're heading in the right direction, and it really is going to improve the way that we're able to communicate with you and interact with you. We achieved another very significant goal over the past year when we joined the New York Council on Nonprofits, also known as NYCON. We had set out to join NYCON because we wanted to undertake a review of our bylaws and all of our policies for the organization, because we were concerned that we were not in compliance with the New York Nonprofit Revitalization Act. And as it turned out, we were not in compliance, and there was a lot of work that needed to be done. So we were very grateful to the assistance of NYCON. They really provided us with a lot of support. We met several times as an executive committee with staff from NYCON to review our existing bylaws, to talk about the future goals of the organization. And then NYCON essentially prepared new bylaws for us that we were then able to adapt to our needs here. What you will have noticed is we did not print the bylaws for you because they're approximately, I think, 33 pages long, which is a big difference from our old bylaws, which were more like 10 pages, if that. So what NYCON has done is added a lot of the legal language that is required to protect our organization, to ensure that we're complying with the Revitalization Act, and just generally making sure that we as an organization, have our ducks in a row and that we were operating legally and ethically. And so we were very grateful to that work that NYCON did, and also for the work of our executive committee, who spent a lot of time going over those things with them. So the biggest changes in the new bylaws that we are proposing to you today and that were in your packet, beyond all that legal language, is the way that the officers are elected. So previously, as I think most of you know, and as we are doing today, the nominating committee submitted a slate of trustees and a slate of officers for approval by the membership. If we adopt these new laws beginning next year, the members will, of course, continue to vote on trustees, but then the officers will be appointed by the Board of Trustees. So you would be elected as a trustee, and then the board themselves would elect the officers. To be honest with you, I don't think that is that big of a difference because the slate we were putting out to you every year is basically a slate of officers that has been determined by the Board of Trustees. Our bylaws already require that you have board experience in order to become an officer. What this does, it just allows a little more leeway for the board, and it reduces the term of an officer from 2 years to 1 year. That doesn't mean that necessarily the officers are going to come and go, but it allows officer terms to run differently from trustee terms, so that if you have a trustee who's an officer who's expiring and being turned out, another officer, or no, I'm sorry, another trustee could step in and fill that vacancy for a year, even if their term would be ending in a year's time. So it's not a major change, I don't think, but it is something that NICON recommended as a way that most boards are operating. The other thing that the proposed new bylaws do is to clarify the board's role, the board's responsibilities, and our authority to manage the organization's affairs. And again, of course, members are still the ones who are going to vote on selecting the board. You still have to approve the annual budget. And of course, you would have to approve any future changes to the bylaws. So it's not a significant change, but it does significantly clarify the expectations for the board and what our roles and responsibilities are in terms of day-to-day operations and overall organizational management. So we will be asking you to adopt those bylaws today. So when I'm done speaking, we will entertain questions about that as well. And finally, the board has been evaluating how we manage the organization. You know, many of you know that APHNYS had a relationship for a number of years with a professional organizational management company, Capitol Hill Management. And those of you who have been around for a while will remember that relationship went badly, and it ended up costing APHNYS a lot of money, and it put us in a dire financial position that we have been seeking to overcome for the past several years. The current board was fortunately put into a good position by the time most of us got on the board. We had started to recover from that. So it's really been previous board members, a few of us here still, who have worked tirelessly over the last, how many years has it been now? 8 to 10 years almost, to right the organization. And so we know that there is some concern within our membership about the idea of going back to any sort of relationship with any sort of management organization. But the board has really taken on the labor of running the organization since we severed that relationship. And this certainly has resulted in a strong financial position that we now find ourselves in. And Zach will talk to us a little bit later about the financial status. And we are in a very good financial status, especially considering where we see other organizations as they're coming out of the pandemic. But, you know, we continually seek to professionalize the organizations. We want to increase membership. We still have a very small percentage of the eligible historians in New York State who actually join our members. So we really want to spend a lot of time increasing membership. And we want to continue to improve the outreach to you as members and the educational opportunities for you. And, you know, this year, especially, we've really seen just what it takes to make a successful conference and trying to do both in person and virtual at the same time. And, you know, I think if you look around the room at the board members, and can I ask all of our board members to stand up, please? These people have worked tirelessly for you for the past 2 years now, and it has been a really trying time for all of us as we've tried to manage our own workplaces. Many of us still work full-time. Some of us have children that we're trying to raise in the midst of this. and, you know, trying to manage an organization and get it through a pandemic, it's been tiring. And I think you'll see that there are a lot of us who are pretty exhausted at this point. But, you know, this is one of the most incredible groups of people I've ever worked with. They have been amazing. They have worked so hard on your behalf. And I also want to thank again the members of the local arrangement and planning teams who are with us here too, because again, this has been a Herculean task to do this both in person and virtually. It's always a Herculean task, but all the more so trying to do it in two different ways. And, you know, what we as a board have been discovering is that it is no longer sustainable for us to rely on an all volunteer board and all volunteers to run a statewide organizations where we have members stretched out, you know, across a state the size of New York City. And so we've spent a lot of time looking at the options available to us. And when we came to you last year and possibly even the year before, we talked about the eventual need to add some sort of staff to the organization. And so the board is looking to do that at this point. What we hope to do is to create a contract position for an administrator. This would be a pilot program for 1 to 2 years to test out the financial sustainability of it. Right now, as Zach will tell you, we can afford this. APHNYS is in very good shape. We can afford to take this chance right now with the idea that we are going to be able to continue to sustain the organization and grow the organization. And frankly, if we don't do this, I don't know how much longer we can sustain this organization, because frankly, your board is getting burnt out. It's amazing the work we've done, but it's not realistic to expect that going forward. So what we were asking you to do, we are still working on a couple of things that would need to happen in order to make this feasible. The first is that we are currently negotiating with an organization in Albany to provide office space for us at no cost to us. We don't know for sure that that is going to go through, but that is a possibility for us to have access to free office space. So we will be very grateful if that happens. And then we would like to hire someone in a contract position. And we are asking through our budget process in the proposed budget to set aside $20,000 for that possibility. And Zach's going to talk to us about how he is making this possible through the treasurer and the budget that we're proposing. He has been able to recommend some cost cutting measures in other areas of our budget so that the financial implications of this position would be more in the $15,000 range rather than the full $20,000 that we would like to propose for this. And it sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But I want to assure you, as we're asking this of you, that this board has looked very carefully at this. We have worked with Nikon to look at how other organizations do this sort of thing. It will be a very different relationship than it was with an organization like Capitol Hill Management, in that the board will still be fully in control of everything. The person that we hire would be hired on a contract basis. They would provide the services. The amount of time they're spending working with us might vary from month to month. They would do a lot of work leading up to the conference and leading up to membership renewals, and maybe a lot less work during other points in the year. But they would be fully accountable to the Board of Trustees. The board will still manage all financial matters and all administrative, legal administrative types of matters. So we're not giving up any control to any way. So we are still talking with Nikon and seeking advice from other organizations in similar positions to get advice on how we would structure a contract and going about seeking someone to fill this position. So what we are asking of you today is to approve the 2020 budget with that funding increase in it that makes it possible for us to then do this in the coming year. And we need to ask you this of you now because we only meet once a year. We only approve a budget once a year. So if we don't do it today, it's going to be at least another year before we could do this work. So we're hoping that you will have the faith to put that money into the budget so that as we work out the details, we can move forward with that. And I also want to mention that we do have a strategic plan that we're working on implementing that would go along to help increase funds to cover this position. Some of you have seen the wonderful displays that are right outside of this door. And thank you to Mary Cascone who put that together and is arranging products for sale for a profit for APHNYS. And you know, we've already seen from that, so many of you have stopped by the table expressing interest in that, and we've already sold a number of things. So that's just one small example of additional sources of revenue that we're starting to look at. So, you know, we do think that we can raise the money we need to cover salary. So it has been an honor to serve as your president over the past 2 years. Certainly when I was elected in Albany 2 years ago, I don't think any of us could have anticipated the challenges that we all would face in these past 2 years. So I really do appreciate the support of all of you and the support of my fellow board members. You know, I think we have all been a support to each other, and I certainly am grateful for that. So thank you all for your support, and let's continue to do great things to promote New York's history. Thank you. And then I will take questions. Actually, I'm going to ask you to save questions about the budget specifically, if they're financial questions, until Zach presents his report, because he's going to provide you with more information about that. But I will take any other questions.
This is just a comment from Peter Feynman. Having space in Albany with a staff of 1 is a great move. Multiple exclamation points.
Thank you, Peter. We miss you here, Peter. And then another Peter, Peter Evans here has a question.
I'm going to be a troublemaker.
You always are.
The last time we went to an outside source, it became a very big issue. And basically one of our regions left. Has there been any outreach to see whether that would endanger their readmission to our fold? I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just wondering whether we have asked them their opinion. This obviously is a totally different situation.
Yeah, you know, and that's a valid point. And thank you for raising that, Peter. What Peter is referring to is that we have, as APHNYS, very little presence in Region 12. And that is because when we first initiated the agreement with Capitol Hill Management, and I don't even know what year that was, it's probably been 20 years ago now. Yeah. There were some issues and there were objections to that. And as a result of those objections, what was essentially then at the time Region 12 broke off of APHNYS and formed their own organization, the Government Appointed Historians of Western New York. And they are a very active organization. And you know, frankly, many of the people from my region in Region 11 attend their conferences. They do a wonderful job. I know the people involved in that organization, several of them quite well. We have had some preliminary conversations about somehow reconnecting the two organizations. We don't know exactly what that will look like right now. One of the things that the board has already talked about doing is we are planning to have our annual meeting in Region 12 in 4 years from now. We've got a whole schedule. Next year, we're going to Kingston. The year after that, we're going probably to Region 10. After that, we're going to Long Island, or no, yep, Long Island. And then I think we talked about the next year after that going back to the Buffalo or somewhere in Region 12. And the hope is that that gives us plenty of time between now and then to forge more of those relationships and hopefully, you know, bring them back into the fold, if not as full APHNYS members, but in some sort of affiliate capacity. And they have expressed an openness to having those conversations. Now, the specific question about their feelings about a different type of administrator, I have not specifically addressed with anyone there, but I would make the same argument to them that I just made to you, in that this is a very different relationship than what we had with Capitol Hill. I mean, we essentially hired them and turned everything over to them. Here, as I said, the board would maintain full control. We would essentially be hiring an employee, not an employee, but like a contractor that we would fully supervise and control. Thank you, Peter.
So Peter Feynman online is following up. Will there be any APHNYS advocacy?
That's a good question, Peter. And we are not currently engaging very actively in advocacy in terms of, and I think knowing you, Peter, I'm guessing that maybe you're talking about legislative advocacy and advocating in Albany. So we are not currently engaged in that because we feel that it's very important right now to make sure that our own organization is strong so that we can be better advocates in the legislative area. Where we are doing advocacy is we're planning a lot of outreach to communities, communities who don't have appointed historians like they should, or communities who have historians, but whose historians have not been active in APHNYS, and who, you know, whose historians may very well not even know that we exist. So we're starting there. We're starting our advocacy efforts with the historians in the state. And then as our organization is stronger and we build more capacity, we will move on to other types of advocacy.
I'm Dina Wood. I'm the historian. I almost said I was postmaster, but I'm not anymore. Historian in the town of Johnsburg in Warren County. And I just have a question about the difference between the contract and the employee, because it sounds to me like what you're doing is hiring an employee. And have you looked into the laws and made sure that that you can do that and still have full control over that person?
Yes. So what we will be doing is we will be contracting for very specific tasks. So we are not hiring someone to be an office manager or an executive director or anything like that. So the contract would specify the exact work that is to be completed, and there are deadlines associated with that, which is within the law of a contract.
And then they would go ahead and make their own schedule and do that planning of that work themselves? Under the supervision of the board. So, and I write contracts for my own job for the city of Rochester, and it would be a very similar thing, that they are expected to preserve these tasks under the supervision of.
Concerning the Western New York situation, are the personalities and issues still the same as 10, 12 years ago, or is there some hope for a reconciliation?
There is some hope for a reconciliation. My understanding is that there were some personal issues involved in this situation. And granted, this was largely before my time, but the people who were involved in those, who had personal conflicts, are no longer with either organization, I don't think. And there is new leadership in Gowanee right now as well.
So the egos have been suppressed, right?
I don't know about that, but. Are there any other questions before we move on in our agenda? I think we'll do the motions all at the end. Yeah, because I want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to hear from everyone else first. So, okay, thank you all. Oh, sorry. Next up is Matt Ertz with the candidates, presentation of the candidates for election.
Okay.
I do just quickly want to apologize because the first time we sent out the candidates, the part of the information I sent was incomplete. We did update that. And so you should have received the more up-to-date information this morning. And Matt will be going over all of that. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at that.
Okay, so before I get started, I genuinely believe we owe a huge applause to, I'm going to take myself out of it, but the rest of the board and the trustees, and specifically Mark, Christine, and Lauren, who did amazing work, as did others. But in terms of programming and getting this all together, it's insane what we have done in the span of, normally we have a year to put these together. And we started this in May because we did not know if we could meet in person. So from May to September, we not only got a normal conference scheduled, we figured out the streaming side of it. And so far, that's okay. And in that regard, I want to thank Tim, who is our IT guy from Visual Technologies, who has been fantastic to work with in that organization. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of people up for reelection, and I'm just going to start with the officers. Christine Rudarski is up for her second term as president. She would in theory be eligible one more term, but that would reset with if the new bylaws pass. Okay, that would reset. I am up for first vice president. This would be my last term. Since you know us, Ray, would you stand up? Ray is up for re-election as second vice president. He also, this would be his last term. Zach, your turn. Zach is up for re-election. He could run one more term. Will is stepping down at the end of his term, and we are, Samantha Hall Saldino has agreed to run for secretary. She is not here today, but this would be her first term. Mary Ellen Matisse, and I'll give you bios of the new one, would be a new person running from the town of Montgomery. It would be her first term. Taylor Bruck, you want to stand up, Taylor? Would be running for his first term. He's from the city of Kingston. Lauren Roberts would be running for her second term. She is from Saratoga County. Stan, I'm going to try this, Stan. Cianferrano. Okay, did I get it right? All right, good. This would be his first term. Julie Madeline, who is not here, is running for her second term. She's from the city of Ogdensburg. So for the new folks, I'm going to read you the bios of each of them. Taylor Bruck credits his mother, Lisa, who worked at the Senate House under Rich Goring for a number of years while growing up in sparking his interest in local history. In 2016, Bruck was hired as the Ulster County Archivist and became a board member of the Friends of Historic Kingston. In 2017, he became a board member of the Friends of the Senate House. In 2018, Bruck was appointed the City of Kingston historian after receiving the recommendation of former historian Ed Ford. Bruck is an active member of the 1st Ulster Militia and has been on the planning committee for the burning of Kingston reenactment since 2016. Does it really burn? Like, do you set it on fire again? Okay. So that's Taylor. Stan Cianferrano was a teacher in Liverpool, teaching elementary grades, as well as teaching in the district's gifted program. Upon completing his doctorate at Syracuse University, he took a job at the College of St. Joseph in Rutland, Vermont, where he prepared teachers for Vermont and New York schools. While there, he was promoted to full professor and served as the education chairman for 4 years. Following his retirement from the College of St. Joseph's, for 5 years, Stan served as an adjunct professor in English at Adirondack Community College, now SUNY Adirondack. After moving to Glen Falls, he applied to write a chapter in the new 2009 Warren County History book. With his application accepted, he became an active member of the Warren County Historical Society and was elected president of the society for 3 years. Since 2010, he has served on the board of trustees of that organization. He currently serves as co-president and now serves as publications manager, where he edits the society newsletter, Pastimes, and publishes a bi-monthly local history post on the society's website and oversees the publications of books for the society. For the Warren County Bicentennial in 2013, Stan was asked to serve as chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee. His work on that committee brought his commitment to history to the attention of Warren County Board of Supervisors. And when the county historian position opened up in 2015, he was asked to step into that position. As county historian, Stan has participated in APHNYS and attended the organization's conferences and participated in Region 5 activities. In Warren County, he works part-time doing all those things historians do. Our final nominee is Mary Ellen Matisse, whose interest in local history took a serious turn when she was elected to the Walden Village Board in 2005. She began the research of Thomas Wilson Bradley, president of the New York Knife Company and benefactor of the village of Walden. Following the end of her term in office, she applied to and was appointed historian for the village in 2010, a position she held until 2019. As village historian, Matisse researched many of the founding families of the village, including Jacob T. Walden and many of the early industrialists who settled here. She worked closely with the other local organizations, including the Historical Society of Walden and the Wallkill Valley Local History Day, the Walden's Women's Club, and the Walden Elementary School. Working with fourth grade teachers Nancy Phelps, the duo received 5 awards from the New York Archives Partnership Trust for projects of the History Club. Matisse maintained our program, Child Labor in the Village of Walden, or presented, a program, Child Labor in the Village of Walden at the APHNYS meeting in Poughkeepsie. In 2017, Matisse was named the Marshall Washington Woman of History by Washington Headquarters in Newburgh. In 2019, she was appointed to the Town of Montgomery Historic Preservation Commission. In 2020, she was appointed the historian for the Town of Montgomery. From 2010 until the present, she has continued to offer programs, write articles for the local paper, provide comment for the Town Planning Board, and contributed to the new comprehensive plan. Matisse applied for and received funding for 13 roadside markers from the William G. Pomeroy Foundation for the village and the town. In 2021, she was appointed to serve a 3-year term on the Orange County do you want to say this for me, Devin? Semi-quincentennial Commission, which will do local planning for America 250. America 250 is a lot easier. Matisse has developed a broad view of our town as part of a larger regional history and looks forward to working with others from Region 3 in New York State and telling that story now in the future. I now ask if there is anyone that would like to nominate. Will, tell me if I'm wrong on this. I now ask if there's anyone that wants to nominate anyone else for the position of trustee. Anything from the interweb? So now we'll do the vote at the end, correct? Is there anyone that would like to be nominated for an officer position? I'll keep it open for a while if anyone's thinking about it. All right, so now I need someone to make the motion to accept the trustees as such. The slate is presented. Babette Huber, and it's seconded by Kathy Sheehan. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Yeah, folks that are at home online, if you can cast your ballots now, we'd appreciate that. Any abstentions? I think we're done. So next up, I believe, is Ray Lefevre. No? Is next Zach? Oh. All right, so we're also now going to do, we need a motion to accept the bylaws as we presented them. That would mean someone has to say, I will make the motion. All right, Peter Evans, John Shear seconded it. This is a time for folks at home. If you're ready to vote, go for it. All those here in favor? Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Am I doing anything else? on both accounts? Okay, motion's carried. One more thing. Sorry. This is a membership organization and we need more help from the membership. We're not kidding when we say we worked a ton of hours, not just in the weeks leading up, but in the months leading up. We have lots of committee seats open and committees we're going to try and get to meet once every 3 months. It's not a huge time commitment, but we could really use your help, your insight, and your ideas to make this organization better. You can find all the committees on our website, or you can come up and bug one of the trustees and board members. That's not me. And we will help you find something that we think you can, a committee that you can be successful on and help benefit us. So please, those at home that are watching and those that are here, make yourself active and help us be a better organization.
Thank you for that, Matt. And I would second that. We would love to have you. We are a fun group. Look, we wear mustache, right? We're a fun group. We like to hang out together. So please do join us. So thank you, Matt. And congratulations to all of our officers and board members, and particularly our three new members. We look forward to getting to know you and having fun together. So. Great, thank you. Next up, we have our treasurer's report and the presentation of the proposed 2022 budget. And I apologize, there's a typo. We are not voting on the 2021 budget. We're almost done with that.
Hello, everybody. There we are. I'm Zach Studenroth. I'm from the village of Southampton, which is approximately 6 hours and 10 minutes from here. As I learned last night. But it's lovely, lovely landscape and countryside to drive up through. So it's a very delightful trip. And I too want to welcome the new members of the board. We look forward to working with you. And I just want to say briefly that it's been an absolute pleasure to work with the existing board members. We have a lot of fun. And I think we've accomplished a lot in the last couple of years. So this treasurer's report that I've written out is actually printed and it's on the back side of Ray's membership report. So I'll try not to read it word for word because you do have it. So this is my report for the fiscal year 2021. And I'm pleased to report that despite all the turmoil we've all been living with on every level, our organization remains financially very, very healthy. The balance sheet reflects this. As of July 31, our checking account stood at $14,932, and our money market accounts at $87,041. So that gives us a total cash assets of $101,973. That number is important when we consider some of the things we're proposing. Obviously, the greatest impact on this past year's operating budget was the cancellation of last year's in-person conference and its replacement with the virtual online equivalent, which many of you participated in. Unanticipated expenses were incurred, however, to deliver that virtual conference, which was given free of charge. But we were fortunate to have some very high-level in-house expertise that was able to kind of finesse that and make it possible to Zoom that and make it deliverable. So many of the costs that we might otherwise have incurred to make that happen were accomplished in-house, sort of experimentally and very successfully without adding unforeseen costs to the operating budget. The other impact that pandemic has made was last year dramatically a drop in membership dues. They, however, have improved in this past year. As of the end of the second quarter, which would be June 30, membership revenues stood at $9,685 this year against the budgeted number, which we have carried forward every year because it seems to be a predictable, achievable goal, which is that of $12,500 in revenues, membership dues. With the added expense of $20,000 for an administrator's salary, which we're reflecting in the proposed budget, it's important, however, for our organization to redouble its efforts to bring that membership back to at least historical levels, if not higher, to potentially begin to defray this added expense that we've been discussing. Looking forward, we can also expect increasing costs for digital communications, whether they be continual Zoom conferencing, gatherings such as this, perhaps seasonal, more occasional meetings in between the annual. This form of communication is extremely helpful. It not only addresses the shortfall that we suddenly experience by not being able to come together actually, but in effect, it's expanding our capabilities to reach others who might never have wanted to attend something in person, but can now be reached. So it's really an entire shift in our understanding of how to communicate and gather, either actually or virtually. But there are costs associated with that. And I feel that we should not feel restrained to take advantage of whatever innovations are possible, because they will ultimately be very beneficial to us functionally. So that's the big expense coming up, that and the $20,000 that we've projected for a part-time administrator. Now, the budget itself, I certainly don't want to read through all these numbers with you, but they're printed and you have copies of it. And what you'll see, we'll go to the bottom line first. The projected income for this next fiscal year is $29,500. So you see, we run a kind of a tight ship. In my experience, working with small museums, that's a small budget. Okay. Expenses, however, exceed that because of this projected administrator's expense of a contracted contract fee, essentially. And that is not something that we built up toward over the years. We suddenly decided that's something that we need to consider. That has an impact, bringing the projected expense up to $44,500. And if you do the math, the difference is 15,000, not 20. What I've managed to do is go back through the prior expense budget, which we tend to carry forward from year to year. And I found savings in costs, which we in fact haven't been incurring in the last few years. And I think some of them have to do with business as usual, the way it used to be usual. And now it's shifting a bit. So there are expenses associated with traveling and doing local meetings, et cetera, and other various lines. So I've economized on that and brought that down so that we're only projecting a shortfall in this first year of 15,000 for that expense. But I urge not only the board that's responsible for this, but of course the entire membership to look for ways to augment income. It's very difficult to keep paring back expenses. There's some basics there that you just have to pay for, such as conferences. So we're all going to have to put our shoulders to this and look for ways to increase revenue to, over time, this won't happen in 1 year, it may take 5 years, but the goal over time is to increase the budget such that it is balanced, which I believe as a nonprofit, we certainly do not want to project an income. That never happens. But we cannot sustain projecting a shortfall of any substantial amount for very long before we begin to worry about our financial position. So that's the whole package. Of course, any questions that come to you from the budget, be happy to answer.
So Margaret at visiting virtually, we haven't heard the responsibilities of administrator or who it might be. Has the board considered reaching out to members to aid with activities rather than hiring someone?
I'm not sure I understood the question, but
So I think what if I'm understanding the question, and Margaret, correct me via chat if I'm wrong, but I think your question is, have we tried to get additional volunteers to do these tasks that we're looking to hire someone for? The answer is that we have been trying very hard to recruit volunteers and board members for the last couple of years now. And frankly, it's very hard. There are few people who are willing and able to step up to put the kind of time into this that we are putting into it. You know, again, we know that many of you here today are still working, or if you're not, if you're retired, you're enjoying your retirement, you don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time working on a volunteer board. I also know that we all wear many hats. I know, you know, many of the people in the room, I can look around right now and I know that you're already serving on several boards or running organizations, that sort of thing. We welcome volunteers, but you know, as Matt knows from working on nominations, it is very hard to recruit people into service and then to ask them to do the kind of work that we're doing at no pay, you know, on tight deadlines. It's hard. It is hard. And I also want to say that, you know, the board members will still be very active. There's still going to be a lot expected of us because we will still be doing much of this work. But, you know, these board members, we've been running to Staples to print things. We've been doing design work, graphic design. We've been stuffing envelopes. We've been, oh gosh, I can't even tell you what we've been doing because it's crazy. It is crazy the type of menial tasks that some of us have been doing, trying to just keep track of so many little things. And it is not the type of thing that your leadership should be spending their time on. We should be spending our time finding ways to serve you better and putting those things into action. That is where we can be of most service to you. And, you know, again, we have tried to recruit volunteers. The other thing with volunteers, you know, honestly, we have fabulous people involved in APHNYS. We've done a great job of recruiting committee members, and they've been very active. But trying to manage all of these volunteers who are spread out across the state is also very difficult. You know, so we have people willing and able to do things, and it's easy to get on a Zoom meeting, but when you have real work to be done, you can't just get someone from, you know, Albany together with someone from Buffalo together with someone on Long Island to do that physical work that needs to be done in one place together. That is where our biggest problem is, I think. We are a statewide organization with people spread out everywhere. So you're wonderful. You're all wonderful. And I appreciate everything you've done to step up and help, but we also have to be very practical.
So Margaret has a follow-up. Thank you. But what are the responsibilities? Perhaps there are people who will volunteer if they know what they are. 20,000 is the biggest expenditure in the proposed budget. And then Peter Feynman also chimed in, how about a partnership with SUNY Albany Public History with its grad students?
Very good. So there's two questions there. The first is the types of tasks. So, and that's a great question, Margaret. So thank you for that. And you know, I probably can't off the top of my head come up with all of them, but let me just give you some examples. Maintaining our membership lists is something that Ray has spent a tremendous amount of time doing, you know, making sure renewals are going out to people. You know, it sounds simple, right? You send out a renewal, they send it back. Except for, you know, everything has to be verified. We have to verify things between the membership committee and the treasurer's office, making sure everything is appropriately tracked. Our online management system is starting to make that easier. But there are, you know, things like that, just keeping track of members. And we want to be doing more than keeping track of members, right? We want to be providing service to members. There are things like designing our programs. You know, we've got a wonderful person who has volunteered to do our newsletter in terms of the content and the design, and that is fabulous, except for what we ran into is trying to send those out via mail. I'm your president. The last time we did an actual physical mailing, I sat alone at my kitchen table for hours on end, folding and sealing and addressing and mail, you know, putting stamps on newsletters to mail. Is that the kind of work you want your president doing? You know, there are, what else? Zach managing.
There are checks, of course, as treasurer, and any future treasurer would handle the specifics of receiving checks, canceling them, making deposits, but just tracking all that information takes several hours every week. The treasurer will always oversee that, but I think we're looking at more kind of office functions, which need to be monitored by the appropriate board member, but there are many tasks, and we will be formulating a more robust sort of description of what these tasks are that can be handled by a very competent and computer digital savvy younger person who can help us expand on these functions and take over some of those, what perhaps we would call them menial tasks, or simply necessary, and would then free up the president, the membership chair, any other chair, to do the more thoughtful, forward-thinking work that needs to be done. Newsletter.
Yep, exactly. Newsletter. Yep. And, you know, just the preparing for this conference, for example, the amount of work that has gone into all of the logistical things, you know, where are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? Who's going to do what? Who is going to, you know, be responsible for every piece of paper that we've had to prepare for you? Those are the types of things that someone else could be doing for us to help make it easier. Again, you know, I was supposed to be reporting out to you today. I was still writing my president's remarks this morning because I was up late last night with all your friends and working for the past week, just doing some of these menial tasks, dealing with getting these pieces together, just so everything's organized for you. So, you know, those are some of the tasks. And that's not the best answer. I'm sorry, Margaret, but that was kind of off the top of my head. So. Oh, thank you. Yes, Peter. So the question about SUNY Albany, that is one of the things that we are pursuing. As you know, and many of you in the room know, we do have very close relationships with SUNY Albany, including through Devon. We also have close relationships with the state education department. In Western New York, there's possibility that SUNY Geneseo has a partnership or has a new local government history program that I know many of you have been in contact with. So those are the types of organizations that we are looking at. We had initially considered a plan where we would seek put out a call for proposals directly to organizations like that, to have them propose to provide organizational services to us. Ultimately, the direction we are looking at right now is contracting for administrative services because we are in negotiations for use of free space. So we don't necessarily, if that works out, we don't necessarily need the same kind of relationship that we would have with say, SUNY Albany or another organization. So that's still on the table if these other negotiations don't work out. But right now, we think it is a more cost-effective solution if someone is willing to give us the office space.
One more question.
So thank you, Laura, for forwarding these. They did not come through to everyone. They were sent directly to the private APHNYS direct message. The one question in here in this list is concerning the bylaws in Article 4, Board of Directors, Section 4, qualifications. Should it include being an APHNYS member as a qualification, or is membership assumed / taken for granted?
Yes, and I thought that was in there. Let's see. Oh, somebody took my copy. So,
The bylaws?
The bylaws, the proposed bylaws. Well, the ones we just passed.
So is the question that the administrator needs to be a member?
No, this is about the candidates for election, correct?
Oh.
Michelle,
well,
is that what it is?
Oh,
thank you. Go ahead.
To answer your question, basically, yes, you have to be a paid member to be a trustee or be a officer.
Actually, it does, the way it's reads right now, it says qualifications. All officers and directors must be at least 18 years of age, committed to advancing the purposes of the corporation, and currently serving as a locally appointed government historian, providing proof of the latter status upon demand. So that is a very good point. So I think what we have always said in the past, and what I think I'm hearing we may want to say now, is that they must be a member in good standing with the organization.
Yep.
Now, Will, you're going to need to help me with the rules here. Can we take an amendment after the fact, since we've already voted on it? Tom, do you have clarification for us, or?
Tom LeClaire, I'm with Clayton. All right, so Tom LeClaire with Clayton. So Christine, the statement you just read, and I heard you use the word a positive or something, and it to me, that is built right in. You're not going to be a trustee. You're not going to be if you're not a paid member. I mean, I know we can't spell out everything, but you used the word a positive or something in that statement.
Good standing, I think.
It implies
Right.
active membership.
I believe that it implies it, and then it's not needed.
Yeah. Committed.
Right. And if you're not committed, if you don't have your dues not paid, you're not committed.
Committed to advancing the purposes of the corporation and currently serving as a locally appointed government historian.
So my comments is that statement is correct and you don't need to change it.
And so as a matter of internal policy in the future, it doesn't need to be specifically enumerated in the bylaws, but rather as a matter of practice, anyone who is being considered for a position on the board would effectively have to demonstrate that they're a current member. And that would be a policy, not an item in the bylaw.
Is there further comment on that? Or if Will tells us it's okay, we could entertain a motion if someone thinks it's important. Dick Williams says there's no need for a motion.
The nominating committee, I hope, would not appoint somebody or suggest someone who's not a member.
Correct.
So that's another check.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right.
Jerry Springer.
Vanna White. Is there anything in the bylaws, I don't have it in front of me, under membership levels? Because we used to have an affiliated membership where you could not vote or serve in office.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
there
still the
might be
case,
something
yeah.
else under membership.
Okay, yes, Jason is being very helpful here for me. Article 3, Section 1, classes of membership authorized. Unless otherwise stipulated herein, the corporation shall have 2 classes of members. One is individual, any officially appointed village, town, community board in boroughs, city or county historian, and their officially appointed deputies. Or 2, affiliate, any cultural agency, educational institutions. So the language there is essentially the same as what we have right now. So we still do have affiliate members. And as it is now, affiliate members can sit on committees. However, they cannot be the chairperson of a committee, and they shall be non-voting members and not hold office. So that is as we have it now. Any other discussion or questions on the bylaws right now, or any need for further discussion on this particular comment that came in from one of our online members? No. Okay. They say no.
Okay, real quick, for those that are online, send it to Matthew Ertz. The APHNYS account is what we are using to stream it. We're not actually monitoring that account. So send your questions to Matthew Ertz. That's the account we're monitoring for this.
So I guess there being no more questions about the proposed budget, we're probably up to needing a motion to approve the 2022 proposed budget. Do we have a brave member? Mark Slosik moves. Tom seconds. All in favor? Any opposition? Any abstentions? Yes, our online folks, you need to vote for or against the budget. Register your thoughts. I think, no no's. Okay. I think the motion is passed. Thank you very much.
I do not have half an hour. Because we need to give these good people a break. I'm Ray LaFever. I am second vice president and chair of the membership committee. And you've seen the membership report in your packet, and it has been noted before. Our numbers took quite a dive last year, though, to be honest, all things considered, I was happy that we broke 200 last year. And we're actually now at 354. Someone just signed up about an hour ago. I don't know if they're online or what. I also need to look, because I've got about 4 or 5 people who signed up, but they haven't paid the invoice. So I'm actually going to do a follow-up with all of them to see, because possibly they didn't get the invoice or something. When you sign up online and want an invoice, the system should automatically send you electronically an invoice that you can submit to your government for payment. And people have done that, and that's worked out fine. So I just have to say that I'm happy that the numbers are back getting toward 400. Really appreciate the fact that all of you here and our good folks at home have continued to support APHNYS during a very trying time. Budgets are tight, and we really appreciate this very much. I was very happy to see what happened with the numbers this year. As I said, after they went down last year, I have included, we've been tracking for quite a long time the people who have emails, and I've got about 84 people in our system whose emails do not work. And it's a little tricky, because then you actually almost gonna have to sit down and call every one of them, because why doesn't your email work? And and then we also have over 700 people without email. And, you know, on one hand, I'm like, it's 2021, get an email. We do understand that for some people, internet is just really bad. So I think we have to kind of work around that. And we probably need to be, in terms of advocacy, we need to be supporting any kind of rural broadband initiatives to get internet out to our rural areas, because that's probably where a lot of our people, you know, do not have internet. I know some of them don't have it because they don't want it. And well, yeah, okay. But I think if you have it, you need to be availing yourself of it. I have a feeling everyone here does, because you've all registered electronically. So anyway, so that's where we are on membership. I'm also in charge of the regional coordinators, and we're actually going to try to start meeting via Zoom again this fall. We do have a couple of vacancies we would really like to try to get filled. We've been working at it, and so far have not succeeded, but we will continue working on it. I mean, one is Western New York, which is kind of tricky anyway, but we do have another region that is vacant right now, and we'd like to get the coordinators in there. And we hope some of you, you know, if you're going to become a coordinator, be like Dick Williams over there. He keeps his people busy all the time. He's always throwing stuff at them, and it keeps them active and involved. And we have done several regions that do regional meetings by Zoom. I found it actually worked quite well. I'm probably going to continue that practice next year. We'll do one during the winter when travel is not good, but then we will do an in-person one when truly spring comes, because it's kind of nice being in person again, isn't it? Instead of seeing everyone through a square, box. So hope we can continue that. If there aren't any questions on membership, I'd like to jump right into the 2022 conference real quickly. Do we have a question?
Okay, so Janine is asking, what, if any, changes will occur to the scope of responsibilities and leadership roles available to longtime affiliate members? Nothing.
If we're talking in terms of the bylaws, no.
I think that question was related to the bylaws. The affiliate membership will remain as it always has been. We welcome you, encourage you to participate. You can serve on our committees. Affiliate members are non-voting members, however, and that is because our primary responsibility is to our officially appointed government historians. That is our mission and purpose, but we recognize the value that our affiliates bring to our work as well. So we thank you for the support you continue to give our organization.
And so I'm going to jump right into, because we've got to wrap up here. Next year, we're going to be in Kingston, New York, which is in the Hudson. I heard somebody was asking about all the money going to the Hudson Valley. Well, so we're going to be there next year. Kingston is actually a lovely place. Our issue is not going to be finding tours. It's going to be deciding what ones to do, because there are so many options there. We will be at another Best Western. The room rate is only going to be $109 a night. So we got a good, because they're anxious to get people back. And I will alert you now, and I'm going to alert it in a number of the communications. The hotel's a little tricky. It's easy to go right by it. So we're going to try to have, pictures that show you, okay, when you see this, be looking to turn, because I went sailing right by it the first time I went there. And so you see the save the date information's in there. We already have a call for proposals. So we'd like you to start thinking now about it. I will be chair of local arrangements, essentially. Lauren is going to continue as program chair, so we'll be co-chairs. Taylor from Kingston is going to be on the committee, the Ulster County historian, and we'll be bringing in some others for local arrangements. And Michelle Finn will be on program committee. I basically said, you'll be on it, right? And like, yeah. She's been very useful. So that meeting is going to be September 19th to the 21st, which with any luck, the leaves are going to start just getting really nice. It'll be a nice time of year to go down there. And, and if you want to stay a little before or after, apple picking and stuff like that. So we really hope that you will come to the conference next year. And we hope next year we don't have to deal with these, but if we do, we'll be prepared. So any questions about the meeting next year? Yes, I do, except that oh yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure I had the theme where I could get to it. Yeah. Expanding the narrative. And that's actually quite broad, but the issue came up actually in discussing with Jeffrey Miller, the Ulster County historian, did a Zoom session last year, talked a lot about the underdocumented and just topics, people and topics that have not been covered in local history. And Kingston's a great place to do that, just in terms of some of the examples down there. So that is the general theme. And but we'll hope you'll think about looking at some new stuff. Someone's pointing at Michelle.
Janine asks, will ongoing meetings, trainings, and the annual meeting continue to be hybrid for those who, for mobility or financial reasons, find traveling a barrier to full
I think that's our
participation?
hope. That's our plan. We're looking, next year's meeting, we're definitely looking at doing a virtual component of it. And I would like to think that that's something we're going to continue into the future, because we know for some people traveling is hard. It's one of the reasons why I'm probably going to do 2 regional meetings in the spring. I'm going to do a Zoom one and an in-person one, because I want that opportunity for people who just don't feel they can travel or can't travel for various reasons. So yeah, we're hoping, you know, we're going to be learning a lot from this. And, but yeah, I know for the Kingston meeting, we're definitely going to have a virtual option.
As a person that deals with the digital side, you're all trying to kill me.
But Matt, you probably won't have to worry about it next year. I think we're gonna find some other people, aren't we, Taylor? We're gonna find some other people. But yeah, we're exploring those. I mean, this is all learning for a lot of us. But yeah, I kind of think I don't think we're gonna be going back to just in person. I think this is an option that needs to continue, and it can be done. So it can be done, folks. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, that is everything that we had on the agenda. Does anybody else have any business to bring before the membership? All right, hearing none, I want to thank you all again. I think we've had a very successful annual meeting. I think we're all doing great things together, and we're going to continue doing great things together. And if you see me coming, run, because I'm coming to recruit you for a committee or something. So folks, join us for a reception in the Riverfront reception room down where the exhibitors are at 5:30. We've got 2 more sets of concurrent sessions coming up this afternoon. Some wonderful presenters. Visit our exhibitors, check out some APHNYS merchandise. Join us for beverages at 5:30. Dinner begins at 6:30, and our keynote speaker, Judith Wellman, is scheduled to start speaking at 7:15 tonight in room C. So we look forward to seeing you. Have a wonderful rest of the conference. Thank you. Now I will entertain a motion. Whoop. Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, Matt Ertz moved, John Shears seconded, all in favor? Any opposed? No, and I'm guessing nobody abstains either. So motion adjourned at 3:08 p.m. Thank you, everyone.